Brothers and sisters, so in the last video we have been speaking about basically St. Ignatius's first rule, really for that person who is struggling with deep habitual sin that is grave, sin that is severing them from the life of God. And we spoke about how the evil spirits, the bad spirits work, and how the good spirit, the work of the Lord, works in that dynamic. We spoke about that the evil spirit entices us with a false peace, with apparent pleasures to seduce us to commit that sin, while God will try to disturb us, to alert us by, kind of like when you put your hand on the fire, if your hand tells you that is dangerous, pull your hand away. And so the Lord tries to prick our conscience. Sadly, we could really try to really block that and deaden our conscience and block the Lord. But yet the Lord will continue to gently disturb us, to trouble us, to prevent us from choosing that sin. Today we want to move to rule 2, which is kind of the reverse. Basically, when we're moving from good to better, when we're moving from fighting sin, we're struggling in the spiritual life, we're trying to overcome our flaws and defects so that we could find this greater union with God, so that we could advance in the path to the ascent to God. What happens is that when we're trying to choose the good and we're seeking to live God's will, God will give us delights and pleasures and peace, and will console us, strengthen us, give us courage. But then the enemy, the devil, the bad spirits will come and disturb us, try to distract us with anxieties, try to make us worried, try to make us focus on the obstacles of doing that good. So, for example, you might be asked to fulfill a ministry for the Lord, or do some good tasks for the Lord, and the devil will try to get you to think of all the obstacles, all the problems, all the worries and fears to slow you down from that. However, if you brought that to the Lord will reassure you with peace, encouragement, and try to bring you down that path. Dan paints it quite much like this. Bad spirits in this event of moving from one good to something better, following the Lord, these bad spirits will provide inspirations to sadness, will draw you to focus on the obstacles, as I mentioned, potential or real, in order to keep you from making spiritual progress. How many times, I've experienced this many times, I'm sure you have as well. How many times have you maybe set out to go on a pilgrimage, for example, and you want to pull out of that pilgrimage the last minute? You want to just give up the whole venture altogether, and you struggle with some anxiety or fear or worry, and yet it's something really good to go and do. And yet, if you did not give in to that and you decided to continue on it, you end up realizing how incredibly blessed you are and were by not giving in to those temptations, and you decide to push through with the Lord's will. And often there's some incredible grace. I can't tell you how many times that has happened. And often now I've become aware that if that's happening, and I know that the Lord's asking me to do something good, it's something that is very gospel, and I'm feeling all this pushback. But then I realize, well, that's either my weaknesses, my fears, but it could be really spiritual resistance, spiritual pushback from the enemy, trying to stop me from pursuing that path of the Lord. Or it might be, this could work out in so many ways. Dan points out how, even, and I know this from my own self, at times when I was going to, coming to enter the Dominican order, to the amount of pushback I got, there were so many setbacks, so many things, but yet, I knew the Lord had asked me to at least enter. So, and I remember the incredible peace that then came when I got my habit, and all those fears just vanished. Or about maybe, young men who are going to be priests, and often this is the case, that leading up to their diaconate, that solemn commitment to their priesthood, also fears about their unworthiness, or, what can I say, what will I preach, all these things get thrown at them, and then if they persevere and push through, they realize the Lord assists, and they're blessed and surprised, and they think, well, why did I even think like that? And so these are just typical cases, but you might have this in your own life in so many ways, in your marriages, in your workplace, whatever the Lord's asking you to do. Basically, the bad spirits will try to provoke you to sadness, to stop you from doing it, while the good spirit will provide courage and strength, consolation, tears, inspirations, quiet, easing and removing all obstacles in order that you may be encouraged in your progress. And so this dynamic, it's very helpful to be aware of this dynamic, just so that we're aware of the tactics of the evil one, so that we could know how to push on and how to persevere and how we could lead to pray. So St. Teresa of Avila says that, very much in the beginning, the devil could put ideas in our minds and thoughts to stop us from advancing to the Lord's will. And it takes a great deal of courage, she says. So we must pray for courage to continue on the spiritual progress so that we will reach union with God.